there's a housing, people are concerned about housing and where they're going to age in place. There's a lot of aged people, and I'm excited about the McGill Uni campus proposed plan. We've got the retirement and aged care facilities proposed for that development. People are raising, concerns about healthcare. So a lot of young families who need to access Tylenol Panadol in the middle of the night. Sorry, my American coming out there. Panadol in the middle of their night for their toddlers. And so, getting to explain to people that there are now 24-hour pharmacies in the East is something that I'm really excited about. So, support for working families, people are concerned about that, which is something I'm always advocating for. So those are, I think, probably the biggest issues that I hear. And then I always get the issues with the parking and the cars on the street. So, we're working hard to help solve some of those problems as well.
Actually, I think it might have been 3 elections ago, Stephen Mulligan told me that parking was the single biggest issue that people would mention to him, and it was not their responsibility. By the way, I saw your Facebook photo has a portrait of Bob Hawke in the background. I actually interviewed Bob Hawke and Bill Hayden, I think, during the 1984 election campaign. So I'm much older than both of you. But I was only an undergraduate student in those days doing this kind of volunteering.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
So, one more question again to Jen. How are you noticing differences between politics here and back home? Have you noticed any?
Look, it's, similar in what I would be doing back home to campaign. Things are very similar. So door knocking, that's what I've done whenever I've been involved in grassroots campaign back in the US. We definitely see the same things here. Politics in general is different. People are open-minded. Every door that I've knocked on, people are genuinely, for the most part, happy to see me and welcoming. The amount of homes that I've been welcomed into is incredible. And I feel really comfortable doing that and speaking to people in their homes. So I think that's a huge difference than what I would see in the US, where people are they're more hesitant to go into the homes of constituents. So I think that that's but politics is, it's you see both sides. So you see the left and the right, and I think we're more moderate here. I think that's probably fair to say, yes. And people are reasonable, whereas in the US you get the far left and the far right. So.
Yes, well, the first Obama campaign was very much a grassroots one, but South Australia is probably a bit different from other states, certainly different from New South Wales and Victoria. Would you say, Deputy Premier?
Yeah, and I think to pick up on something that Jen just said, I think our politics is practiced much more in the middle, not at the extremes in Australia. I think there's a whole range of reasons for that. I think our electoral system is set up to promote that, which I think is on whole a very good thing. Yeah, to have preferential voting, so if you don't get your first choice, you might get your second choice, and also compulsory voting, where everyone has to vote. So often in places that don't have compulsory voting, you go to the extremes to try and motivate people to come out to vote. Compulsory voting means you have to aim your policies for everyone, and I think that stands us in good stead in Australia. In many places in Europe, what we're seeing in places in North America, we're not seeing that extremism that has infested our politics play out here in Australia.
And actually, while we're talking, there's also quite a rearrangement of the political system, mostly on the Conservative side. And I give you actually my electorate is a nice, good example. What is it? I think it's called Unley. Anyway, David Pizzorni is a retiring candidate. So there's
the electorate of Unley?
Yes, a new Liberal candidate. There's a Labor candidate. There's an independent who was the previous Labor candidate, which is another story. And now One Nation has recruited someone. So it's quite a changing environment.
It is, and yeah, many of our electorates in South Australia are quite diverse. I was with Alice Rolls, who's a legal aid lawyer and a candidate friendly just a couple of hours ago today, and it's a really we were on King William Street in Hyde Park, upmarket shopping area, and it traverses a whole lot of spectrums of South Australian society in that electorate.
So, how are you seeing this fragmentation? I guess, lucky the same thing is not happening to the left. It is. I think there's a combination of dissolution with the major parties to start with, and then maybe some other underlying issues that are really undoing the Liberal Party. Why do you think it's not happening on the left?
Look, I think it happens from time to time on both sides. I think that there is disillusionment, particularly with the Conservative side of politics at the moment, because I think many people in metropolitan, inner city areas are concerned or disappointed with the Liberal Party. They just in recent weeks in South Australia seem to have abandoned a target of net zero, so abandoned any target for renewable energy for a sustainable energy source, which in many seats like the one we mentioned, Unley and places like Hyson in the Adelaide Hills, will be very disappointing to many people who've supported the Liberal Party for most of their lives. But we're also seeing, in regional areas for other reasons, disappointment on the Conservative side. In South Australia, we've historically seen third parties relatively more strongly represented than others. We were the birthplace of the Australian Democrats for the latter part of the 1900s. The Nick Xenophon Party and the SA Best Party with Nick Xenophon was very prominent for some time. So we've regularly seen those third parties strong in South Australia, but really haven't seen one that's been around for a substantial amount of time.
And I sometimes wonder, Zoe Bettison must be pinching herself every day that she's got the best job in the world with the tourism portfolio, and you've just announced the MotoGP. There's a lot going on.
There's an amazing amount going on, and I was just talking to people about this today. I was out again just in the electorate much earlier this morning. The electorate one up from Jenn in Hartley, Matt Marozzi in Morialta, and there are a whole lot of people very, very pleased that we might get to see Ducatis racing around the streets of Adelaide. I think Ducati have won the last few constructors championships for the MotoGP. But you're right, in terms of the events that are happening, Gather Round, the football event in Australia, I think has done more than I can remember anything in recent times to bring excitement to buzz to Adelaide. It's really changed. People that I've known that have left Adelaide and have come back for Gather Round have talked about that. Wow, this is different than the city I left. And I think the way others are seeing us also instills a bit more pride and helps us about how we see ourselves. And I think things like Gather Round have done that nationally. I think Live Golf has done that a little bit internationally, but I think the MotoGP on the streets of Adelaide from next year is going to do that on steroids for how we are perceived internationally. I was only young, but in uni when we went to my first Formula One Grand Prix, and that certainly did huge things for how Adelaide is seen around the world, and having the motorbikes here racing, I think will do that same thing again. So I'm really excited, and nearly everyone I talk to is really excited about it.
I said earlier I thought I'd forgotten one portfolio, and in fact I had. It was Special Minister of State. Now, that's a bit of a catch-all phrase. And I remember Mick Young which meant that he was just the Minister for re-electing Labor. Yep. So what does Special Minister of State mean?
Yes, I'm the Special Minister of State in the state government. Don Farrell, the South Australian Senator, is the Special Minister of State in the federal government. Our primary thing is to do with electoral matters and electoral reform. So I have the Electoral Act that's committed to me. We made some really, really big changes. And I think they're the first time we can find anywhere in the world that we've banned donations to political parties and candidates for this election. So Liberal, Labor, everyone else can't accept donations. I don't think I wasn't aware of any actual problems, but it certainly gives the perception that you might be able to buy favourable policy outcomes for big corporations donating. You can't do that in South Australia anymore. And I think that has it is able then to put people's mind at ease that it's not a contest of dollars, it's a contest of ideas in the South Australian political scene for now and into the future. So that in particular has been a reform that I've been really proud to be involved in as Special Minister of State.
Okay, so no donation. So who's funding these campaigns? How are they being funded?
Yeah, so for quite some time in South Australia, as there has been, I think, in every jurisdiction now around Australia, there is public funding. So parties after an election get $1. I can't remember exactly what it is now, but $1 amount per vote that they receive. And there's also been in South Australia funding cap, so you can only spend a certain amount in each seat. And I think it was maybe 130,000, 140,000 maximum spending in each seat. So what we've done in South Australia is we've pulled down the maximum you can spend, and we've increased public funding, so that's met in the middle, so that there is no private funding for political parties in South Australia anymore. There's a moderate amount of public funding to allow parties to communicate their policies, but really we're keen for this to be a battle of ideas and a battle of dollars. So for this election, you should see Liberal and Labor spending pretty much the same amount of money, and then commensurately, depending on the vote they got last time, the Greens and other parties.
Okay. So we've got a few minutes. Jenn, so we've said you've been door knocking, you're involved with the community. The Deputy Premier said your Italian is improving or is good.
Greeting people.
Yes, I can say buongiorno and I can say ciao bello or ciao bella. And, of course, which I mentioned previously, the limoncello. And so I've been welcomed at the Marquet Club a few times, the pasta nights there, which I'm, very, very receptive to. I love to eat. And so, yes, I am brushing up on my Italian. But it's not perfect.
A bit more seriously. So how can you describe the electorate?
Look, the electorate is, you do see a lot of Italian heritage in parts of Hartley. It is a changing demographic. So it is such a wide range of different people, cultures, customs. Like I said, my children are at McGill School, and I see that such a diverse and rich culture there. There are a lot of Asian families. We have Indian, Sri Lankan. We've got some Latino families as well.
And you have just frozen, so I should talk.
And then, of course, you do have the Greek, going to things like, I love to go to things like Harmony Day at school, because you can see the range of communities that come together there. And that's what I'm seeing on the doors, is a huge range of all of those different communities. And being welcomed into all of the homes has been such a brilliant experience for me.
Yeah, now this might be jumping the gun a bit, but let's say you were to be elected. Do you have some themes or topics you'd like to pursue as a member of Parliament over time?
Look, I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself. And so I am, quite honestly, I'm focusing on getting the win on March 21st. And I am focusing on meeting with people and finding out what the issues are for the voters and what people and families want to see happen in Hartley. So I haven't really thought about what's going to happen if I win, but I am taking on board everything that's being said to me, all of the things that people are wanting me to advocate for. I take very seriously. I've kept a huge log, a range of issues, and that's what I'll take back if I do have the privilege of winning the seat. So,
good luck. So good luck to everyone. Let's come back to Kyam Maher. What are some major policy options that you have in mind for your portfolios?
Yeah, so there's a whole range of things. There are a couple more that are going to be really, really interesting. I think grab a lot of attention that over the next 4 weeks and 1 day before so 29 days before the election on March 21st that we'll be announcing. We're looking forward to continuing to implement something that was a sort of a foundation of our policies in Aboriginal affairs, and that is implement a state-based response to the Uluru Statement from the Heart, which was made in May of 2017. That voiced treaty truth. We talked about already the voice part of it that we have set up. There'll be the second elections for that Aboriginal advisory body over the next term of Parliament. Really looking forward to getting stuck into the treaty and truth parts of it. When Jay Weatherill was Premier, we had a treaty policy and had the first ever agreement on the way to treaty with the Narungga people of the Yorke Peninsula. So recommencing that over the next term. In the Attorney General's space, there's a whole lot of things really interested in doing. One thing I've been really proud of that I'm looking forward to continue is making sure our judiciary, so the government appoints the members of the judiciary, making sure it better reflects the great diverse background we have here in South Australia. For the first time ever, we have as many women as men as judges on our Supreme and District Courts. Just yesterday, we swore in for the first time since 1856, so first time in 170 years, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of our judicial system is a female. We've had 2 Aboriginal people appointed as magistrates over the last few years, so much better reflecting the communities that they serve in the judiciary. In the industrial relations area, we brought in a whole lot of reforms that have included making sure that people who work in the community services sector have portability of their long service leave. So if they only work under contract for a few years at a time, that as long as they're in the same industry, they can take over their length of service for long service leave. And that's been in the construction industry for half a century, which is largely male-dominated. The community services area, which is largely female-dominated, hasn't had that. So that only started this year. So we're looking at expanding that perhaps into some other sectors as well. So it's building on what we've already done. And we already talked about the events that have occurred in South Australia, and we think that's a really strong platform to keep building on as well.
And you were saying that just this afternoon, today, you've reached an agreement or something like that with the nursing unions.
Yeah, so it's been a really busy 12 months in the industrial relations area. Pretty much every single public sector agreement's been up for negotiation over the last 12 months. So that's your firefighters, your AMBOs, the 40,000 people represented the general public sector agreement, the weekly paid agreement, public sector doctors, allied health professionals in the public sector. Have over the last 12 months, we've reached agreements with all of those. We're not quite there with the nurses and midwives, the 20,000 odd people in the public sector who do such a fantastic job keeping us healthy, keeping us safe. But as mentioned earlier, just today we announced a further 2% pay increase in October on top of the 4% pay increase that's backdated to January. So we've been able to sort of reach an interim agreement in that we can't enter a proper agreement in caretaker over the next 4 weeks, but we recognise that nurses deserve a pay rise, so we've been able to do that. We'll keep on talking, and then I'm sure further moves forward after the election.
Are you already in caretaker mode?
Caretaker starts tomorrow morning.
Okay, so that's as far as you can go.
So it would be great if we get an agreement in the next 12 hours, but
unlikely.
In reality, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, and you probably might, from time to time, have to deal with the medical salary doctors and AMBOs and ramping. How are we going with that one?
It is frustrating. I won't make it better around the bush. It is exceptionally frustrating. We have to throw on the kitchen sink at what we can do to affect ramping. So many more ambulances, new ambulance station, more AMBOs. We've increased in the public sector well over 2,000 health professionals, 1,400 new nurses, over and above attrition. So over and above those that leave and get displaced, more than 1,400 nurses over the last 4 years. We've seen really, really good improvements in response times. So those lights and sirens emergencies, that the meeting the times that are set down for the category 1 and 2s and 3s, they have improved absolutely dramatically. But there are certain things that are frustrating or outside of our control. Every day there are, I think it's hundreds of patients in our public health system who would be better off. It would be better for their care. It would be better for the hospitals if they were in aged care. And that's a federal government responsibility. There just aren't the places. So it is not through a lack of trying and effort and application. We are seeing really good results in those response times, but frustratingly not yet in the ramping statistics.
Yes, and did I see an announcement that you were going to be offering grants or something like that to create aged care beds or loans?
Yeah, we are. So it's a loan scheme to create incentives for people to build more aged care places. As I said, aged care is absolutely and solely a federal government responsibility. But notwithstanding that, I think that shows the level of frustration we have as a state government that is impeding our ambition in relation to the health system. So, yeah, we're going to step in where we traditionally haven't, and it's not our responsibility, but are creating a loan scheme to incentivise more aged care places.
Okay, I have to speak to Andrew Kay in a minute's time, so thank you. We have to cut now. I've enjoyed it. Nice to meet you, Jen, and very pleased to meet you at last, Honourable Kyam Maher. And I forgot to press the record button from the beginning, but anyway, we've got some of it. So thank you. Have a good
Thanks, Antonio.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.